Hello, welcome. Welcome to the UNJSPF's Town Hall on Pension Essentials. I'm Denise Gustengardella, and I'm accompanied by Dilbar Miradova, and we're going to present to you some of the essential information for participants of the fund. So this is ideal for anyone who's new to the fund, or just as a refresher to go over some of the terminology we use and to explain the types of benefits that the pension fund provides, and some of the tools that are available for you to learn more about your pension. This town hall will be 3 hours long. We will have a break after the first 3 sections. And we also have a Q&A where you can submit questions, and we have a team who is available to answer your questions. But we do ask that you please try to wait until the section on your topic is covered to see if maybe your question is already answered by us in our presentation. And also, please do not submit any very personal type of question, which would be, would require us to see your particular file in order to answer. And also, just for confidentiality reasons, it's better if you keep your questions more general. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the pension fund's website along with the presentation. So along with the slides and the recording, you can access this afterwards if you want to review any of the material. And of course, we'll go over some of the other information that our website has that you might find useful. So I think to start off with, we'd like to have an icebreaker. And my colleague will be posting for you there in the Q&A. Do you know how many people the UNJSPF currently services? How many members it has? So that's in participants, retirees, and beneficiaries altogether. Do you think it's over 89,000 or closer to 185,000 or over 225,000 in total? See, the answers are changing. Okay, so just looking at some of the comments, some people might have had trouble accessing the link. I'm sorry for that if there was any issue. And some people have answered within the Q&A, so you wanted to give your opinion if you weren't able to access the Slido. Okay, I think we can finish. Maybe we have a pretty clear winner at this point. which is over 225,000, which is the correct answer. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to share my slides now. Just a moment, please. Okay, a little slow to respond. Okay, there we go. So as I mentioned, this is our town hall on pension essentials for participants. And it will be a 3-hour session. This is what we plan to cover. So first, we'll look at the fund itself and what kind of pension scheme we have. Secondly, we'll look at some of the definitions that we use and some of the factors that are used in calculating your pension, so that you understand the terminology when we go into more detail about the different pension benefits. Thirdly, what about participation? What do you need to know about that? So we assume that most, if not all of you who are attending today are participants in the pension fund. Hopefully we can give you a lot of information that you'll find useful today. And after the break, then Dilbar will take over and she will go over the main pension benefits that the UNJSPF pays. We'll look at then different benefits, including disability and survivors benefits. And then finally, the pension tools that are available to you on our website and in your member self-service account, and also how you can contact us if you have questions after this presentation. Now, everything that we covered today is based on our rules and regulations, but if there is any discrepancy in the information, in the way that we're trying to present it to you in a easy to understand way, and the rules themselves, then please be aware that our regulations and rules are the authoritative source. So first, let's look at what is the pension fund? What kind of scheme do we have? And UNJSPF is the United Nations Joint Staff Pension Fund. Sometimes we'll be saying the fund or the pension fund, but this is what we're referring to when we shorten the name. Who are we and what do we do? To start off with, I'm going to play a very short video for you, which is available on our website. And this is just a very quick overview of the fund and how it works. So hopefully this will work now. I'm going to try to play for you.
When you have a staff contract with a UN pension fund member organization for 6 months or more, you become a participant in the fund, unless your contract excludes participation in the fund. As a participant, a percentage of your salary, based on your pensionable remuneration, is paid into the fund each month. The member organization that employs you pays twice the amount that you pay. Today, more than 140,000 individuals and 25 member organizations make monthly payments into the fund. Fund capital is invested, and the income from these investments ensures that the fund is able to meet its obligation to pay benefits into the future. The UN Pension Fund is known as a defined benefit plan. It pools all of the contributions received. Your benefit at retirement is based on how long you contributed to the fund and the level, grade, and step at which you contributed, and it's guaranteed for life. It is not a defined contribution plan, which is another category of pension plan, where there is a separate account for each individual and benefits are based on the market value of the invested contributions. The fund pays out monthly benefits to more than 80,000 retirees and other beneficiaries in more than 190 countries and territories. The regulations and rules of the fund are strictly implemented to safeguard the fund's financial security and pensions. For more information, visit unjspf.org.
Okay, so thank you for your attention to that. That was, I think, less than 2 minutes, and it briefly covered a number of things that I will cover today and Dilbar will cover in the later section. So this is our website where you can find that video and many others. But let's just look at back to the fund. So the UNJSPF is meant to provide you with some type of income replacement after you separate from service if you have contributed at least 5 years. So we refer to this as being vested or having vested pension rights if you have contributed at least 5 years to the pension fund. If you separate with less than 5 years, you will get back the money that you paid into the fund with interest. But the scope of the fund and is to provide a retirement benefit for those who have at least 5 years of contributory service. And also the fund covers you for disability and death benefits while you're an active participant. So even if you don't have 5 years of contributory service, as soon as you become a participant in the fund, you're covered for disability and your eligible dependents are entitled to a death or to a survivor's benefit in the event of your death. So if you were to die in service, your eligible dependents or spouse would receive a benefit from the pension fund. If you become disabled while you're a participant in the fund, then you could be eligible for a disability benefit, which is a monthly benefit paid to you. And again, these are not requiring 5 years of contributory service like the retirement benefit does. So we had a quiz about how many people we serve in the fund, and it does fluctuate. The numbers that are on this slide are from the end of 2023, and you can see that we have over 86,000 recipients of monthly benefits. So that's retirees or dependents, beneficiaries, people who have received benefits as a survivor, for instance, or people who are receiving a disability benefit. And we also had, at the end of December 2023, over 149,000 active participants paying into the fund. Now, currently, we have 24 member organizations. I know the video mentioned 25, but we had an organization that recently finished its mandate and closed. So there are 24 member organizations right now. We also have 24 transfer agreements. These are agreements between the pension fund and other bodies where if you have pension rights, you can transfer them to the fund if you become a member of the fund and you have been in a different pension scheme in an organization that has one of these transfer agreements, or alternatively, if you are in the fund and you transfer to another organization that has a different pension scheme, you could transfer your pension rights to that organization. And each one has different conditions, but just be aware that there are these other ways to keep your pension rights or transfer them into other organizations. Then we have many, many queries that we get. We have queries in written format, and we have queries via the phone. So the fund receives many questions from our participants and our retirees around the world. How do we serve you? We do our best to process retirement benefits and withdrawal settlements as quickly as possible once we've received all of the separation documents. And the benchmark is to process them within 15 business days of receipt of all the required documents. And you can see that well over 90% of the cases are processed within that timeline. We have a strongly funded fund. The market value of the assets, this figure is from the end of July 2024, which was over 93 billion US dollars. And the fund is funded well over 100% based on the assets and the actuarial value. If you're interested in more details about our investment side of our fund, you can find more information on our website about that. In this presentation, we go over pension benefits, and we don't really go into details about the investment side, but you can find a lot of information there on our website. We have 4 offices. Our main office is in New York, and we also have an office in Geneva, and then we have 2 liaison offices, one in Nairobi and one in Bangkok. The investment side of the fund is located in New York, and that's considered the biggest office. So you can see that we have over 400 staff altogether working to serve you. It was mentioned in that video that the fund is a defined benefit plan, and there was a reference to all of the contributions being pooled. So this is one aspect of the defined benefit plan, is that the contributions that you pay every month and that your employer pays every month into the fund are pooled. And your future pension benefit is based on the fund's regulations and a formula. So depending on your length of contribution and the grade, step, and level at which you served, your benefit is calculated accordingly. And this is to contrast it with a different type of pension plan where you might be paying into a fund, and then your amount that you get when you finally take your retirement is based on whatever the return is on your investment. That's not the type of plan we have. So you don't have a risk of worrying about what the value will be based on the return of your investment. In the pension fund, you can already see what your benefit will be at the time you separate, when you look at your length of contributory service and your final average income level at the time that you separate. we'll go into this in more detail in how the calculation is set up, but just be aware that this is a defined benefit plan. So you can already see what your benefit will be. You can get an estimate of it. And your benefit is paid for life. Your retirement benefit is payable for life. And it's initially calculated in US dollars. Even if you're contributing from your salary in a different currency, it's always converted into US dollars and calculated in dollars. You can receive it in another currency, but it's a US dollar-based plan. In this pension fund, the contributions and the investments are pooled together. So you can see in this illustration that they're all pooled together in a common pool. And from that pool, we pay for the administration of the fund, and we pay all of the pension benefits that we have, that we are paying to our beneficiaries and retirees. How is the fund doing financially? We're doing well, just to put it simply. As I mentioned, if you want to see all of the things that the fund invests in, I would refer you to the investments information on our website. There you can also see on our main page the current market value. The amount I have here is from the end of August. And if you see the contributions we receive per year, these are figures from the end of 2023, that it's over 3 billion per year, and the amount that's paid out per year is a little bit higher per year, but due to the investments of the fund, we are financially healthy and can pay all the benefits that we're obligated to pay. These are the links to the website and specifically to information about the assets and the investments of the fund if you're more interested to research more on that. And now we're going to have a little quiz. We're going to stop sharing. So again, we'll have a Slido quiz. So besides retirement benefits, what coverage does the fund provide? I think we have a clear winner. Some people have listed ASHI, which is after service health insurance, but the correct answer is death and disability benefits, which most people answered. Just to say that the fund does assist with the payment of ASHI premiums by the deduction of the premiums from your monthly pension benefit, but we do not handle after service health insurance. So we just agreed to deduct the premiums from your retirement benefit. And so that might have been a little tricky, but the correct answer is disability and death benefits, in addition to retirement benefits. Those are the benefits that the fund provides. So thank you for playing that quiz. Okay, I'm going to go back to my presentation. In this part, we're going to look at some of the terminology, and you might have heard it in the little video. So I would like to clarify some of the definitions and so you can understand. Date of entry. Your date of entry to the pension fund is the date that you started contributing. So our regulations determine when you're eligible to begin participating in the fund, and it's actually mandatory. So once you meet the criteria for participation in the fund, you will automatically be enrolled. And the date that you become eligible is called your date of entry. And that date determines what your retirement age will be. So what age will you be able to separate and take a full retirement benefit? Or if you take an early retirement benefit, your early retirement age is determined based on your date of entry. Another term is your contributory service. This is the period of time measured in years, months, and days during which you pay contributions to the fund. And this is one of the main factors in calculating your pension benefit. So we have your contributory service, let's say very specifically measured out in years, months, and days at the time you separate. And that amount of time is a very important factor in the calculation of your benefit, along with the rate of accumulation, which is derived from your contributory service. So the rate of accumulation is the amount of the benefit in percentages that you will earn for each year, month, and day of your contributory service. And to illustrate that, you see the rate of accumulation is maximum 70%. So the maximum rate of accumulation you can get is 70%. How do you get up to 70%? You have to use the number of years, months, and days that you contribute. And you see for each 5-year block, for the first 5, you have a 1.50 percentage factor per year. And for the next 5 years, it's 1.75. And then beyond that, for the next 25 years, it's a different percentage, it's 2%. And then anything beyond the 35 years, it's a 1% per year. So altogether, the maximum, though, that can be accrued is 70%. And that's actually after contributing for 38.75 years. Some people have served for more than that, but many don't. But you can see that even if you worked longer than 38.75 years, the maximum rate of accumulation is 70%. So this 70% will be an important, this rate of accumulation rather, which can be maximum 70%, is an important factor in the formula for the calculation of retirement benefits. And later in the presentation, you'll see more detail about the different types of retirement benefits, but this rate of accumulation will be a factor in deferred, early, and normal retirement benefits. Another term is pensionable remuneration. What is that? Your pensionable remuneration is not your salary, but it is an amount from a scale that is based on your grade and step. So it looks like a salary scale, but it's really only for pension purposes. It is determined by the International Civil Service Commission, and it is set up in grades and steps so that there's a different amount for of pensionable remuneration for each grade and step. And for professional staff, there's one scale that's used worldwide, and that's in US dollars. So no matter where you are, if you're a P3 step 6, your pensionable remuneration is going to be the same, and you will be paying monthly to the pension fund based on that amount. If you're a general service staff member or local staff member, your pensionable remuneration scale is usually there within your salary scale. You can see the gross pensionable amount is your gross pensionable salary and any pensionable allowances, such as language allowance. And this is an amount that's used to calculate your monthly contributions to the fund. So it's not your net salary, it's not your gross salary, but it's a specific amount that's used just to calculate how much you pay per month into the pension fund. I have a few more terms here to go over. Your final average remuneration. So we just talked about pensionable remuneration. When we calculate your retirement benefit, we look at what was the average pensionable remuneration over the last 5 years of service. And we take the average of the highest 3 years, so the average of the highest 36 months of pensionable remuneration rates to use in your calculation. We multiply that by that rate of accumulation that I talked about in the previous slide, which is based on how long you served. And that's very simply put the calculation of a retirement benefit. So the longer you serve and the higher your level and step is, the higher your retirement benefit will be. But there are other factors involved as well, such as how old you were when you separated. Have you already reached your retirement age when you separated or not? Will you be eligible for a retirement benefit, or will you be only eligible for an early retirement benefit if you haven't yet reached your normal retirement age when you separate? And most importantly, are you vested for pension rights? Have you contributed for at least 5 years? If you have, then you are entitled to a form of a retirement benefit, which is a monthly benefit for life. If you haven't yet been vested by the time you separate, then you're eligible only for a payment of your own contributions and interest when you separate from service. So I mentioned your normal retirement age. If you've reached it at the time you separate, then you would be entitled to a full retirement benefit if you have been vested. What is your normal retirement age? If you aren't sure, you can find it in your pension statement, which we'll go over shortly. It's determined by the date that you entered the fund. So when did you first start contributing to the pension fund? If it was before January 1st, 1990, your normal retirement age is 60. If your date of entry is between January 1st, 1990 and 31 December 2013, your normal retirement age is 62. And if you started on or after 1 January 2014, your normal retirement age is 65. So you would need to work up to your normal retirement age to be entitled to a full retirement benefit when you separate. If you separate earlier than that, you need to have reached at least your early retirement age of either 55 or 58 to receive an early retirement benefit upon separation. And there is a third option if you haven't even reached your early retirement age, but you have at least 5 years of contributory service when you separate, and that's called a deferred retirement benefit, which will be covered later in the presentation. It's a monthly benefit for life. It's just not paid immediately when you separate from service. So this is what I was just covering. So the deferred retirement benefit, which is listed as the third one here, that's payable if you separate before your early retirement age. Early retirement is payable when you separate, but it will be reduced because you haven't worked all the way to your normal retirement age. And normal retirement age, you will receive your full pension benefit if you separate at normal retirement age. Of course, all of these require you to be vested, meaning you have 5 years of contributory service. Now, one thing to just point out is that there is a difference between your normal retirement age and your mandatory age of separation. We know that in the UN, there's a mandatory age of separation of age 65. But let's say your normal retirement age is 60 or 62. You can continue to work up to age 65. But already at age 62, you're entitled to your full pension benefit. You will continue to contribute to the fund and increase your contributions, but just be aware that you're already entitled to your pension benefit at your normal retirement age, whether you work beyond that or not. And mandatory age of separation is determined by your employing organization and not by the fund. So they're two separate rules, and your mandatory age of separation is not changing your entitlement to your retirement benefit. The two types of benefits in general, just to broadly describe them, are based on whether or not you're vested. And I've mentioned a couple times now, so if you haven't contributed at least 5 years when you separate from service, you'll receive a withdrawal settlement. That's a one-time payment of your contributions with interest. There's another settlement that's listed here, which is a residual settlement, and this is actually a one-time payment in the event of your death. If you have no beneficiary who's entitled to receive a monthly survivor's benefit, this would be a settlement of any amount left from your pension account that would be paid as a one-time payment. That'll be covered as well later in the survivors benefit section of this presentation. The periodic or monthly benefits are paid for life, and they are deferred, early, or normal retirement benefit, or you have a disability benefit, which is paid for the duration of your disability. Once you reach a certain age, normally your early retirement age, if you're still deemed disabled, then normally that is approved for life. And survivor's benefits, it depends on the type of benefit, whether it's for life or just until a certain age. That will also be covered in the section later on survivors' benefits. But these are monthly benefits versus the one-time settlements. The monthly benefits are adjusted for cost of living, whereas the withdrawal and the residual settlements are one-time payments that then have no further entitlement. So we're already ready for another quiz. I'm going to stop sharing so we can have another quiz. Let's see what this question will be and how you do. The question is, both you and your employing organization pay contributions to the fund on your behalf. What is the contribution share that you as a staff member must pay every month? I'm not sure I covered that yet, but let's see how you do. So far, we have 1/3 of the total pension contributions. Or is it half, or is it 2/3? Okay, we still have a few answers coming in. I think we have a pretty clear winner here, though. I think the majority is saying that the staff member must pay 1/3 of the total pension contributions. And that is the correct answer. So you pay 1/3 and your employing organization pays the other 2/3 on your behalf. You probably see this on your payslip. You see the deduction made from your salary, and then you'll see the portion that's twice that much that's paid by your employing organization on your behalf. And when we refer to your contributions, we're talking about that 1/3 that you paid out of your salary. So when you have a withdrawal settlement that's paying back your contributions and interest, we're referring to just that portion that you paid from your salary. So your 1/3 portion. The other 2/3 has been put in that big pool that we illustrated earlier on. So the pool of assets and contributions to pay all of the benefits that our pension fund pays out. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. So in this section, I'm going to go over some of the things that you need to know about your participation in the fund. So I'm assuming that you're all participants, and maybe you remember when you started contributing. You would have been automatically enrolled in the fund once you had a contract of at least 6 months, or once you had served at least 6 months on a series of smaller or shorter appointments without a break of more than 30 days. So at that point, you met the requirements to become a participant in the fund. You had to be medically cleared, and then you were enrolled in the pension fund and started paying contributions monthly. Here we have the information. So you all actually were really good. You already knew the answer, and the quiz preceded this slide. So congratulations. Your 1/3 contributions share is what's coming from your salary, and that is an amount that's based on your pensionable remuneration rate, which I mentioned. You're paying 7.9% of that pensionable remuneration rate. So when you get a step increase, or if you get a promotion and you go up to a different pensionable remuneration rate, you'll see that your 7.9% will then be of that new pensionable remuneration rate. And maybe your contribution, most likely it's higher as you get up the scale. Your pension contributions in US dollars are then recorded, and you will see what your pensionable remuneration rates are in your pension statement. So you can see how much or what the rate is that you're paying monthly. You see it on your salary slip, and then you can also see in your pension statement what your pensionable remuneration rate was. So these rates that we've been referring to, your 1/3 and the 2/3 from the organization, are 7.9%, and the organization's paying twice that much, so 15.8%, and that's a total of 23.7% of that pensionable remuneration rate that's being paid into the fund. So your pensionable remuneration rate, as I said, is just used to determine how much you're paying into the fund. It's not what your future pension benefit will be. This is an example on the left of the professional pensionable remuneration scale. You see it looks like a salary scale with the grade level, and then across horizontally you see the steps. So you can see there's an amount that's highlighted there. That's a US dollar amount because this is a professional pensionable remuneration scale. And that amount is showing up on the right-hand side in this pay slip. So the pensionable remuneration rate in dollars is listed there for the step and level of this participant. And the staff member is paying per month 7.9% of 1/12 of that amount, because of course this amount is the amount that you see then you paying per month into the fund, and then lower on the salary slip you see the organization's share. Again, this is not your future pension. This is an amount that's used to calculate your contributions. So I mentioned, of course, you're not paying 7.9% of the full amount, you're paying based on a monthly amount. So divide by 12 and then multiply by 7.9%. And where can you see the different pensionable remuneration rates that you've had over time? It's on your annual pension statement. This is your yearly statement of your pension account. It is the balance at the end of a calendar year, and it's published in May of the following year in your member self-service account. So that's where you will find this document. And if you haven't already registered for member self-service, please do, so that you can go to your account, look at your annual statement, and review the data. And it's important to check this every year in case something doesn't look correct. Maybe your marital status isn't correct. Maybe there's something that doesn't seem to have been recorded properly, like a leave without pay period. So currently The latest annual statement available is as of December 31st, 2023, and this was published in May 2024. So of course you've been contributing since then if you've still been working and a participant in the fund, but you can see what your balance was at the end of the previous calendar year. And in this document, on the bottom right, you see section E is annual pensionable remuneration. And there you can see, I know this is very small font, so you probably can't read it, but this is where you will see the pensionable remuneration rate that's listed, the date that it became applicable, and then how many months that rate was applicable. So what, maybe there was a change in the scale, or maybe there was a change in your step. And if so, then the new date with the new applicable pensionable remuneration rate is listed on another row. So this can't hold your entire history, but you can see that it has quite a few fields. It's got 2 columns of pensionable remuneration rates, effective dates, and the number of applicable months of that rate. And also on this statement, you can see your personal data, whether you're vested, you can see there's a Y. We've taken out some of the personal information, but it has your date of birth. It says whether you're married or not, and that will be important to have correct, because you'll want to make sure that in the event of your death, your spouse is going to receive a survivor's benefit. Your normal retirement age is listed there. On this case, it's 62. Then in section B, you see your contributory service. So your beginning date on this example, it says 13th of July, 2003. And then highlighted is date of entry into participation. And in this case, it's also 13 July 2003. Now, I mentioned that your date of entry is the date you first became a participant in the fund, when you started contributing, and it determines your normal retirement age. So in this case, the person started in 2003, so their normal retirement age is 62. They're often the same, this date and the beginning date of contributory service, but sometimes there's a difference if you choose to validate or restore contributory service. So let's say you had some short contracts when you first started, and you had 3 months contract and then another 3-month contract, and then you got a year contract. And at the beginning of the year contract, you entered the pension fund. And your first 2 contracts, though, you were eligible to validate the contributory period there, or the non-contributory period, to make it contributory. So you can pay to the fund to cover those first 6 months, as an example. That's called validation. And it's listed here under the section D, validation. That would put your beginning date prior to your date of entry, but it won't change your retirement date. It won't change your normal retirement age, but it will add to the period of contributory service and eventually your pension benefit. Another way that you could add to your contributory service is to restore. So let's say you were in the fund and you separated and you took a withdrawal settlement. So you took that one-time payment of your contributions and interest, and now you're employed again and you're back in the fund. And it's within your first year that you have to do this, or also with the validation. Within 1 year of entry, you have to make the choice to restore or validate. So you can pay back that withdrawal settlement that you took from your prior period of participation. And then you put back that period of contributory service into your pension account. Okay, so on this statement, we also see under section C, your total contributions and interest. Now, this is just the portion that you've paid. This is just your 1/3 of the total contributions paid on your behalf. You'll see the prior year balance and the interest, which is 3.25% compound interest per year. And you'll see then the balance at the end of the calendar year. This is the amount that's listed there at the bottom of the left-hand side that's highlighted. So contributions and interest. And then section E, I already mentioned, are your pensionable remuneration rates that are used to determine how much you're paying each month into the fund. Okay, so that was your pension statement. Again, we actually have a video to go over this statement if you want to go into our website and see. It will guide you through the parts that I've just gone over if you need to have a review and explain the sections of this statement. Again, please register for MSS if you haven't and review your pension statement every year. It's important that you check if anything is not updated there that needs to be updated. Okay, just a few things about participation to keep in mind. Your participation is not optional. Once you meet the requirements under our regulations, you are automatically enrolled in the fund. And as of that date, you're covered for the risk of disability and death if you've been medically cleared. Secondly, once you become a participant, your contributions are automatically deducted from your salary every month and reported to the fund. So you cannot choose to pay extra. You can't choose to not pay. And you can't choose to pay any period that you're not that you're not employed. So if you have a break in service or after you separate from service, you cannot pay for those periods to increase your contributory service. Then number 4, once you've reached 5 years of contributory service, you have vested pension rights, which means that you're entitled to a monthly benefit for life upon separation from service. Your contributions, as we saw there in the annual statement, are accruing interest as long as you are an active participant. Once you separate from service, they do not continue to accrue interest. But while you're an active participant, your contributions are accruing interest at the rate of 3.25%. This is compound interest. Number 6, we do not allow you to take a loan from your pension account. We don't allow you to take a partial withdrawal or any advance withdrawal. You actually cannot be paid any pension benefit before you separate from service. And number 7, we pay your pension benefit only to you. It can be paid to an account that you share with someone, but it can never be paid to someone else's account. So it has to be in your name. And finally, the fund cannot release any confidential information about you to a third party without your written authorization to do so. What are the benefits of being in the fund? I've mentioned that you're covered for disability and death benefits. The disability benefit, provided you were medically cleared when you joined your organization and before you were enrolled in the fund, you're covered for disability benefit in the event of an illness or an injury when you can no longer work. So the way that this is awarded is that you or your organization has to apply for the benefit to the UN Staff Pension Committee, and based on the nature of the disability, you will be reviewed for either permanent or temporary disability. It might be awarded for a certain period of time, and then medical reports would have to be provided to see if the benefit is continued. You first have to exhaust all of your paid leave entitlements as an active staff member before you're separated and then start receiving a disability benefit. As long as you're considered disabled, you'll be paid this monthly benefit, and it's adjusted for cost of living. Once you reach early retirement age, it's usually converted to a lifelong benefit and does not require a periodic review. The amount of the disability benefit is roughly the equivalent to what you would receive as a full retirement benefit if you had continued to work up until your normal retirement age. Another benefit to being a member or a participant of the fund is the benefits that are paid if you should die in service. So if you die in service and you're married, your spouse will receive a monthly benefit for life, assuming you were married at the time of your death, and that this is a recognized spouse. The surviving spouse's benefit is basically half of what your normal retirement benefit would have been if you had worked until normal retirement age. So the surviving spouse receives the benefit for life in the event of your death. The other death in service benefit would be if you have any children that are under age 21. So the children receive a monthly benefit as well, but only up until the age of 21, unless they have been recognized as disabled by the fund, in which case the child's benefit can be payable beyond age 21 for as long as the disability exists. It's really important that you keep your personal data up to date with your employer, your marital status, any children, because in the event of your death, then your dependents will be recognized and would receive a benefit from the pension fund. And Dilbar will cover these survivors' benefits in more detail later in this presentation. And at the bottom of this slide, which you'll have available on our website, are the links to more information about survivors' benefits. Okay, just a few more points about participation is your future pension benefit, as I said, is based on a formula, and very generally it's the higher your salary and your final pensionable remuneration, so your final average remuneration, the higher your pension benefit will be. So the longer you contribute and the higher your level and step, the greater your pension will be. How can you maximize your pension benefit? Try not to have any periods of leave without pay where you do not pay into the fund. So you can have a period of leave without pay. It's optional whether you continue to pay your contributions. But when you pay contributions during a period of leave without pay, you have to pay both your 1/3 share and the organization's 2/3 share. And yes, try to avoid any breaks in service if possible. This is, as I said, the very basic formula for your retirement benefit. We take your final average remuneration and your rate of accumulation, which is that percentage based on how many years and months and days of contributory service you have at the time you separate. And that gives us your yearly pension amount if you separate at your normal retirement age. If you separate earlier than that, but at least at your early retirement age, this amount is reduced, and that will be part of the second half of the presentation. So you'll see in more detail about the early retirement benefit and the reduction factors there. But for now, just to look at how can you increase your contributory service as much as possible. I mentioned that you can validate prior service if it's not for some reason a type of contract that didn't allow you to participate, but it just wasn't long enough when you first started that it didn't deem you eligible to participate in the fund yet. So you can validate, which means to pay contributions for that period of service before you entered the fund. This option has to be made within the first year of entering the fund, and you pay to the fund to cover those months that were not yet, you were not yet in the fund. So you can gain more contributory service that way. Or if you were in the fund and you separated and you took a withdrawal settlement, and then you come back to the fund, you can pay back that payment you got and get the contributory service added to your total pension account. I also mentioned that we have 24 transfer agreements. So if you move to another organization that has a transfer agreement with the fund, you can take your pension rights with you there. And if you move from one of those organizations to the pension fund, you can transfer your pension rights to the UNJSPF. There are usually deadlines to do so. So if you're new to the pension fund and you came from another organization, please check about the options if your organization has a transfer agreement with the fund. We have all of the different transfer agreements on our website. And there are deadlines, as I said, to for any of these contributory service purchases. So for validation, restoration, and transfer of pension rights. One thing to note that if you make contributions during your period of leave without pay, as I mentioned, it's optional. It's a way to increase your contributory service, but if you do, it is expensive because you're paying all 3 shares of contributions. And please be aware that if you do this and you separate and you take a withdrawal settlement, you're being paid only your contributions, which is your 1/3. So you would not be paid back the 2/3 that you paid of the employer share during a leave without pay period. So in a way, it really only makes sense if you're going to separate and take a retirement benefit of some type. And here we list the different contributory service purchase possibilities here. We have validation. Again, a 1-year deadline to apply from the date that you entered the fund. This is to pay for a period that you were not yet eligible to participate. Next is restoration, to pay back to the fund a period that you previously were paid out for, so withdrawal settlement. We also have listed here about the deferred retirement benefit. This is sort of a special condition where with this one, if you hadn't elected it since August 2007, if you have this situation, I would say please inquire whether it is something that's advantageous for you to restore. And 1-year deadline, transfer agreements. The link takes you to all the transfer agreements on our website, so you can see if the organizations that you might have worked with or plan to go to are in agreement with the fund, have an agreement with the fund. Special leave without pay. Again, it's an option, but you do have to pay all 3 shares of contributions during that period, and you have to make the arrangements to pay concurrently with your leave. So you cannot just choose to pay a portion of it, and you cannot choose afterwards when you return to then pay retroactively for the period that you were on special leave without pay. So please be aware of the conditions if you're planning to pay contributions during leave without pay. Another thing to be aware of is if you're on leave without pay, it's actually a non-contributory period. And if you're on leave without pay for 36 months or more, then you'll actually no longer be a participant in the fund. If you get married during that period of special leave without pay and you're not paying contributions, that spouse is not recognized for a survivor's benefit if you should die during that period of leave without pay. If you have a child that's born during that period of leave without pay, they're also not recognized as entitled to a survivor's benefit in the event of your death during that period of leave without pay. So please be aware of the conditions during leave without pay without contributions if you if you marry or have a child. Part-time work. If you work part-time, you have to be employed at least 50% to be eligible to participate in the fund. And You're vested after just 5 years, even if you're only working 50%, but your eventual retirement benefit will be reduced according to the percentage of employment you were contributing. So if you are 50%, you are vested after 5 years, you'll be entitled to a retirement benefit upon separation, but the amount you get will be adjusted depending on the percentage that you were employed. And then finally, break in service. A break in service is a break between contracts. So it's a period that you're not actually a staff member and you're not eligible to participate in the fund. You cannot make contributions for that during that period. So it will be a period where you do not have contributions. You're still considered a participant in the fund. It's just a non-contributory period, as long as the break in service doesn't exceed 36 months. And if your break in service doesn't even exceed 30 days, your participation continues as if you were, as soon as you're a staff member. Again, there's really not really an effect on your contributions. But if you have a break of more than 30 days, you have to then qualify to again participate, which means you have to have a contract of at least 6 months, or you have to have at least 6 months of service without a break of 30 days. So breaks in service, again, the main point is that you cannot contribute during the period that you're not an employee. And if your breaks in service exceed 3 years, then anytime you would come back, you'll start a new participation. You'll have a new pension account and possibly a new retirement age for the new period of participation. So if you join after 2014, your retirement age is 65. So if you have a break that's somewhere you started before 2014 and then you separated and then you have more than 3 years break in service and come back, the new period of participation will have a retirement age of 65. So this is the effects of long breaks in service. And for more information, there's a link here on this slide if you'd like to look into breaks in service in more detail. And here again, some more links. There's also a lot of resources on our website, and Dilbar will cover that in the last portion of this presentation. We also have e-learning modules. One is called Participation Essentials, and I encourage you to look at that. And you can take the training at your own pace in these e-learning modules. So we have ones besides the participation. We have others about pension benefits, and Dilbar will go over some more of the resources available on our website. So we've come to the end of that section, and we have a break coming up after this quiz. So let's see, where can you find an annual summary overview of your status with the pension fund since you became a participant? Is it in your monthly salary slip? Is it in your annual pension statement? Is it in Emoji Self-Service? So an annual summary overview of your status with the pension fund as a participant. I think we have some changes. I think it's definitely over 90% of you who are answering correctly that it's your annual pension statement in your member self-service account. This is where you can find the overview of your status with the fund. So thank you for answering. Thank you for your attention to this part of the presentation. And we are going to have a little break for 10 minutes. And then Dilbar will take over and go over pension benefits with you and the website and other resources available, member self-service too. So thank you for your attention, and please, so it's now 23 minutes past the hour. So if you'll be back, we'll resume at 33 minutes past the hour. Thank you.
Right. Welcome back to the second half of today's session. In this part, we'll have an overview of pension benefits, including survivor and other related benefits. We'll also introduce you to some valuable pension tools that can help you throughout your pension participation in the fund. Please note that today's session will provide you a high-level overview of pension benefits. We have scheduled a separate town hall dedicated specifically to separation essentials and benefit options in November, where these benefits will be explained in greater details, and the exact date for this session will be announced on our website soon. For today, our goal is to introduce you to these benefits that the fund provides, with, of course, more detailed information to follow in the upcoming session in November. Again, the details of the session on separation essentials will be announced on our website, and it also will be included in our newsletter. Also, please note that we will close the Q&A function at 11:30 a.m. New York time to allow my colleagues to address all the written questions that were submitted so far. Thank you for all these questions. It is great to see such an engagement from your part. We'll also include a link to a survey at the end of the presentation, so you can give us a feedback on how well we did today, as well as any suggestions on how to make the sessions better in the future. So the fund provides two types of benefits: settlement payments, meaning one-time payments that end your relationship with the fund, and periodic benefits, meaning benefits that are paid every month for life, like retirement benefits. The calculation of these benefits is different. A withdrawal settlement will be based on what the amount you contributed to the fund was, plus the interest you earned since you joined to the fund to the date of your separation. And if you have more than 5 years of contributory service, meaning you have vested pension rights, but elect the withdrawal settlement, you would get an increase of the amount of your own contribution and interest proportionate to how many years you contributed to the fund in excess of those 5 years. A periodic benefit, on the other hand, is calculated based on the predefined formula and key factors that were explained by Denise earlier. That formula uses the length of your contributor service that is translated into a rate of accumulation and your final income level, with, of course, consideration of your age at the time of separation. And that is the formula that we use for all periodic benefits. It's important to understand that your benefit options will be determined based on your separation date. And the kind of benefits you can elect will depend on the length of your contributor service and your age at the date of your separation. So this is just a reminder that the date of your entry into the fund's participation will determine your early and normal retirement age. So if you are a recently new participant in the fund, and if you joined the fund after 1 January 2014, then your early retirement age for pension purposes is 58, and your normal retirement age is 65. So If we look at scenarios of benefit options broken down by normal retirement age, we have a scenario of normal retirement age 60, 62, and 65, depending on when someone joins the fund. For those who have vested pension rights, meaning 5 years of contributory service or more, when they separate, their benefit options would look as follows. So let's look at scenario number 3. If you're someone whose normal retirement age is 65 and you have vested pension rights, if you were to separate at an age younger than 58, meaning younger than your early retirement age, your benefit option would include a withdrawal settlement or a deferred retirement benefit. If you were to separate between age 58, so your early retirement age, and before your normal retirement age of 65, your benefit options would include a withdrawal settlement, a deferred retirement benefit, or an early retirement benefit. And finally, if you were to separate at your normal retirement age or later, you will have acquired the right to a normal retirement benefit, meaning a benefit to which no reduction factor would apply, regardless of how many years of contributory service you have, as long as you have at least 5. So as long as you have earned your vested pension rights. Now, let's look at the benefits offered by the fund. To start with, there is a comparative pension benefit chart available on our website, where broken down by the length of the contributor service and age, you could identify your benefit options. And then another chart that explains each benefit and answers the most frequently asked questions we get for these benefits. Again, it is available on our website, and you might find it very informative. And here's the link. Just again, to remind you, this presentation, a copy of this presentation will be made available on our website, so you can go and get the links to the information you're interested in. We will start with the withdrawal settlement, which is a one-time final settlement payment that settles the fund's obligation vis-à-vis you, the former participant. Once we have paid you a withdrawal settlement, no further payment will be made to you or your survivors by the fund. Again, just a reminder that a withdrawal settlement includes your own contribution to the fund, plus the compound interest you earned on these contributions at the time of your separation. A withdrawal settlement does not include organizational share. Let's be very clear on that. A withdrawal settlement never includes the contribution made by your employing organization. So what you get in the form of withdrawal settlement is the reimbursement of your own contribution plus the compound interest earned on this contribution at the time of separation. And then if you received the withdrawal settlement and came back into active participation, as mentioned earlier during this presentation by Denise, you will have the option to reimburse this settlement and reactivate the period for which you have received it, and then have this period be part of your new contributor service and new participation. Okay, now let's look at the retirement benefits. These benefits are periodic benefits that are paid for life and are adjusted for the cost of living over time, meaning over time they will increase. There are different types of retirement benefits, and depending on your age at the time of separation, different retirement benefit options may be made available to you. Well, we are going to start with the best retirement option, which is the normal retirement benefit, meaning the benefit payable if you separated with the vested pension rights, that is, at least 5 years of contributor service at your normal retirement age or older. Normal retirement benefits is a periodic benefit that will always include a lifelong monthly payment and offers an option, if you wish, to convert part of this benefit into a one-time lump sum payment. It is adjusted for the cost of living over time, meaning the value will not remain the same, so it will increase. And if you have a child or children under the age of 21 that were reported by your employing organization to the fund at the time of your separation or before, then the fund will also pay a retiree a child allowance for every eligible child up to the month they turn 21. Let's look at another retirement benefit called the early retirement benefit. This is also a periodic benefit, meaning it is payable for life in monthly installments. It is calculated in the same manner as a normal retirement benefit. However, a reduction factor will be applied to account for the fact that you will start receiving this benefit earlier than your normal retirement age, and probably will benefit for it for longer time than if you had started to receive pension at your normal retirement age. When you run your estimate, the value that estimate gives you for an early retirement benefit already took into account a reduction factor. So you don't need to calculate it yourself. And again, we will discuss all of these benefits in greater details in the upcoming session in November. And just like normal retirement benefit, this early retirement benefit, is adjusted to the cost of living, so it will increase over time, and it includes the option of getting a lump sum, so converting some part of it into a lump sum. With this benefit option, you will also be entitled to get a child allowance for every eligible child. However, that child allowance would only become payable at your normal retirement age. So if you retire at the age of 59 and your normal retirement age 62, if at the age of 62 you still have a child under the age of 21, you will start receiving a child allowance as of then. Deferred retirement benefit. This is the third and the last retirement benefit that the fund offers. It is a benefit that is also payable for life in monthly installments. The deferred retirement benefit can be elected by anyone who has vested pension rights, regardless of how old the participant is when separating from service, as long as they have not reached their normal retirement age at the time of separation. So for example, in my case, if I were to separate today, and I do have more than 5 years of contributor service, however, I have not reached my early retirement age, I will have the option of electing a deferred retirement benefit if I wish to receive at some point a retirement benefit. However, this deferred retirement benefit will only become payable at my normal retirement age, which is 62. So I will have to wait until I turn 62 in order for me to start claiming this benefit. Another important aspect to to understand with this benefit is that it does not offer a lump sum option or a child benefit. And again, the earliest this benefit can be paid is at your early retirement age, but then it will have to be paid at a reduced rate. And finally, anyone who separates from service will always have an option to not make a benefit election. They can, when they separate, choose to delay the choice of benefit election and pay out for up to 36 months from the date of their separation. And this option is open to all participants. All right, let's look at other benefits that are available for the fund's participants. Disability benefit. As explained earlier by Denise, you are covered for the risk of disability from the moment you become a fund's participant. It is not something that you can elect. It is something that you can apply for. If, for reasons of health, you have been out from work for an extended period, and you've exhausted all your leave, and it is clear that you will not be able to return to long-term employment, the fund will consider your application for disability. Together with the UN Medical Services, they would decide whether, or they would determine whether your medical situation warrants awarding you a disability benefit. And this benefit, it is monthly payments. It's made in monthly payments for as long as the disability lasts. You would have to go through a periodic medical review every few years to confirm whether you continue to be entitled to this benefit based on your disability. And then, as mentioned by Denise again, if at the time of you reaching your early retirement age, you are still entitled to disability benefit, that benefit then would become permanent. And at that point, you would no longer have to have medical review, and you would be entitled to this benefit for life. Child benefits is payable to each child of a participant who is entitled to a normal retirement, early retirement, or disability benefit, or who has died in service while the child remains under the age of 21. Children that are disabled and recognized as such by the fund will receive payments of a child allowance beyond age 21. And usually child allowance is paid to the recipient of a disability or retirement benefits, and it is paid together with their own benefits. Let's have an overview of survivor's benefit. To start with, I'll play a video that is available on our website, and it is available in 3 languages, English, French, and Spanish.
While you are a participant in the UNJSPF, you are covered for the risk of death in service. What this means is if you die in service and at that time are married and/or have dependent children under the age of 21 who are duly reported to the fund prior to your separation from service or death in service, then your surviving spouse or spouses and children under the age of 21 might be entitled to a survivor's benefit. In the case of a surviving spouse, the benefit is payable for life. In the case of a surviving child, the benefit stops when the child turns 21, except for children recognized as disabled by the fund. Under very specific conditions, a divorced spouse might also be entitled to a divorced surviving spouse's benefit. If there is no spouse, divorced spouse, and/or child entitled to a benefit, then a surviving secondary dependent, such as a parent or sibling recognized as such by your employing organization, might be entitled to a survivor's benefit. The coverage for survivor's benefits exists from the very first day of your UNJSPF participation, provided you are medically cleared by your employing organization. It is extremely important that you report all your dependents to your employing organization, and that you inform your HR office of any changes in a timely manner, so that the fund is aware of all your potential survivors. If you die after separation from service, while entitled to a disability or retirement benefit from the fund, one or more of the same survivor's benefits might become payable, and the logic is the same. Again, the survivors entitled to a benefit could be your spouse, divorced spouse, and/or your eligible children. If you don't have any of these survivors, a secondary dependent recognized as such by your employing organization might be entitled to a benefit. Please note that if you got married after you separated from service, your new spouse will not be entitled to a survivor's benefit unless you purchase an annuity for them. To do this, you would have to inform the fund and make the request in writing within 1 year of the date of marriage. You need to be aware that children conceived after you retired are not entitled to a survivor's benefit. When you separate from service because of disability or retirement, the fund will require you to submit copies of valid government-issued IDs and birth certificates for yourself, your spouse or spouses, any former spouses, and all your children under the age of 21, or over 21 if they are recognized as disabled. The fund will also need a copy of your marriage certificate and any divorce or death certificates of previous spouses. If you have secondary dependents, the fund will also need copies of their birth certificates. You can submit these copies either through your employing organization or directly to the fund during your separation process. If your marital status changes after you separated, it's important that you inform the fund and that you provide the relevant documentation to the fund. It's a good idea for you and your survivors to create a file with copies of the aforementioned supporting documents, as well as the survivor's booklet printed from this website and the UNJSPF contact details, so that all this information is readily available when needed. Watch the video, "Are you a survivor of a UNJSPF retiree or beneficiary?" for additional details. You can also visit the fund's webpage for survivors.
Okay. So survivors' benefits, as mentioned in this video, we consider these survivors' benefits as regular monthly benefits payable to those entitled. And when we talk about survivors' entitlement, we talk about monthly payments, either for life in case of surviving spouse's benefit, or for duration of time for surviving child's benefit. In the fund, we distinguish between primary and secondary survivors. Primary survivors are spouse, children, ex-spouse, and secondary survivor is secondary dependent. Only if there is no primary survivor entitled to a regular monthly payment following your death would we check whether a secondary dependent was reported to the fund as your secondary dependent by your employing organization. And if so, would we then pay them a benefit? For a surviving spouse benefit to be payable, certain conditions must be met. The spouse must have been married to you at the time of your death while you were an active participant in the fund and reported as such by your employing organization. If these conditions are met, the surviving spouse is entitled to a benefit for life. This benefit will be 50% of what you would have received as your normal retirement benefit. If you were receiving a disability or retirement benefit at the time of your death, the surviving spouse will receive 50% of your full entitlement, also payable for life, provided the spouse is recognized as your legal spouse. For information on who is eligible for survivor's benefit under non-traditional unions, please visit our website. If you have questions about same-sex or non-traditional unions, please contact the fund directly so we can assess your specific situation and provide you with advice. Also, please be aware that eligibility for survivor's benefit can only be determined after your passing, at which point we will verify if the conditions are met by any potential beneficiaries before we can make any payments. For detailed information about survivor's benefits, there are links included in this presentation, which will be shared with you. And of course, there are various tools available to you, including videos, booklets, and also just the entire webpage dedicated to the survivor's benefit. So definitely there's a lot of information available to you on our website that you might find useful. Another primary survivor potentially could be the surviving ex-spouse, the divorced surviving spouse. However, very specific conditions apply for an ex-spouse to be entitled to a surviving spouse benefit. So those conditions include the first condition, which is you were married for at least 10 years while you were paying contributions to the fund to that now ex-spouse. If you weren't married for at least 10 years while you paid contributions to the fund, the ex-spouse cannot be entitled. But if you were married for at least 10 years while you paid contribution, then the next condition that we would check is if there is a divorce settlement agreement, but that it does not include express renunciation by the ex-spouse of UN pension survivors benefit. So if we have a divorce decree that clearly excludes an ex-spouse from UN pension fund survivors benefit, we in the fund will honor that, and there wouldn't be any entitlement to a divorced spouse. However, it has to be expressly stated that an ex-spouse is not entitled to the benefits from the UN pension fund in the divorce settlement. If there is no such clause in the divorce decree, we would consider the ex-spouse might be entitled if your death occurs within 15 years from the date of divorce. So in that case, if you were married for 10 years while paying contribution, and you died within 15 years from the date of divorce, then your ex-spouse would be entitled. If more than 15 years had gone by, the ex-spouse is not entitled unless you were under the legal obligation to pay maintenance to him or her under the divorce decree at the time of your death. And in any case, we cannot pay ex-spouse anything until they reach age 40. So that's the condition. That's part of the condition. And if an ex-spouse is entitled to a benefit, that benefit would be equal to what we would pay a spouse, in a sense that it would be 50% of your full retirement entitlement. If there is an ex-spouse entitled to a benefit, as well as a surviving spouse to whom you were married, then we will pay shares proportionate to years of your marriage. So we have the amount payable, which is never more than 50% of your full entitlement, divided in shares proportionate to years of your marriage. And all of this is explained under the divorce page on our website. Any child under age 21 reported to the fund before your death or before you separate from service will be entitled to a surviving child's benefit. We have a maximum payment we can make as a surviving child's benefit. And if there are several children, and there is no limit to the number of children, so if there are several children entitled, we will pay equal shares to each child. If there is no parent entitled to survivor's benefit from the pension fund, we will pay roughly a maximum of 1/3 of your full entitlement to the surviving child. If, however, there is a parent that is entitled to survivor's benefit from the fund, then the child's allowance would be equal to the child allowance. And for a child that is recognized as disabled by the fund would pay a surviving child's benefit beyond the age 21. For more information on the subject, please visit our website at the links provided in this presentation. So just to clarify, that you can have several survivors entitled in parallel to survivors' benefit from the fund. For example, you can have in parallel a surviving spouse or maybe several surviving spouses if they're under the regime of polygamy. You can have surviving ex-spouse or possibly several ex-spouses and a child or several surviving children entitled to benefit payments from the fund. That is all possible, and the fund will pay all these eligible survivors their benefits in parallel. And if there is no primary entitled survivor of those I just explained, only then would we check whether potentially there is a secondary dependent entitled to a survivor's benefit. If so, as I said, it could be either a parent where the conditions would be similar to surviving spouse, meaning that it would be equal to surviving spouse's benefit, or a sibling where the conditions are similar to a surviving child's benefit, and the amount will be equal to a surviving child's benefit. And finally, following your death, if there is no primary and no secondary survivors entitled to a regular monthly payment from the fund, and there is still money remaining of your own contribution and interest amount, in that case, and only in that case, will the fund pay a residual settlement to settle its final obligation. So again, please keep in mind that if there is a primary survivor or a secondary survivor entitled to a monthly payment from the fund will not pay a residual settlement because we are still in a relationship with someone entitled to a regular monthly payment from us. Only if there isn't a surviving spouse, a surviving child, a surviving ex-spouse, or a surviving secondary dependent entitled to a regular monthly payment from us in the fund, only then do we check whether a portion or all of your contribution and interest remain unpaid in the fund? And if so, we would then move to a residual settlement. You can designate whomever you wish on the form that serves to designate who should receive a residual settlement from the fund. A2 form is something you should have completed by now as part of your onboarding process. And if you haven't done so yet, or you're not sure whether you submitted to the fund your A2 form, please make sure that you complete one and submit to the fund. You can download this form from your member self-service portal, and this form is available under the e-form tab. Please print, date, and sign it and submit this form to the fund. You need to hand sign this form for the fund to accept it, but you can upload this form via the member self-service document upload function. On this form, you can designate who should receive all or part of the residual settlement. There is no limit to the number of people you can designate. You can even designate an entity. And if there is no space on the page, you can turn the page and continue on the back. Just make sure that you date and sign the back then too. And if you have submitted several A2 forms, just know that the fund will always go by the latest dated form, duly completed, dated and hand signed that we have on file for you. All right, and finally, I'm going to highlight the tools that the fund worked very hard on to improve your experience with us. There is our website. The latest version of the website is intuitive and very user-friendly. We hope that you will also find it easy to navigate and find information you need when you need it. Everything on the website exists at least in English and French, and for some pieces it also is available in Spanish. Then there are e-learning modules that can be also accessed via our website. These e-learning modules are hosted by the Blue Line platform of the UNSSC, but everyone can access them for free who is a member in the fund. So you as a participant of the fund can access these modules. There are currently 4 modules available for general purposes. And again, I would encourage you to take these modules. And finally, member self-service, a portal that you as a participant of the fund can log into to access real-time information about your UNJSPF pension account. So this is the link to our website. The breakdown of information on our website is for clients, investment information, resource materials about the fund, contact us, and then urgent assistance, which is basically for those in receipt of a payment if it ever stopped, or to report the death of a retiree. For clients is where you can find information about participation, separation, retirement, survivors, or any other pension-related information that you need. Under resources is where you can access our videos, all 21 of them, on various topics such as marriage and divorce, validation and restoration, break-in service, especially without pay, etc. Most of these videos are 2 to 5 minute long, so they're very short, and we worked very hard to make it as simple as possible. And they are available in English, French, and Spanish. Also, under resources, you can access our booklets on many of the key pension topics. You see, we have disability, divorce, legal guardianship, etc. They have all been recently updated and are available in English and French, and some are also available in Spanish. We also regularly send out newsletters with information that might be relevant to participants and beneficiaries. I would say it's worth signing up for these newsletters so you keep getting it, or please check it on our website regularly to read them, because they do contain current and important information about pension matters. Here's the link to our e-learning modules. As I mentioned, we currently have 4 modules available to you, and they cover various aspects of your journey with the pension funds. I would encourage you to register and start taking at least module 1, which is on participation essentials, and module 2 on separation essentials, if you are someone who wants to prepare for your upcoming separation. And here's the link to the member self-service portal. On this webpage, you can get various instructions on how to register, and also it includes information on who to contact if you ever need support with your member self-service account. Once you have signed up as a participant in member self-service, you remain and you will keep your access into retirement. So you only have to register once. But once you retire, the formatting of your member self-service will change, because you will have different needs, and we provide for different functionalities as per those needs. So, as a participant of the pension fund, what can you do in member self-service? As mentioned by Denise, you can access your annual pension statement, which is available under the Documents tab. It is published annually, so around May of each year, you should be able to receive your annual pension statement for the previous year. The latest pension statement that we have on file is currently for 2023. We strongly encourage you to look at your latest pension statement and verify that all the information that we have on file for you, as reported by your employing organization, is correct. And if you see any discrepancy in the spelling of your name, in the date of birth, your marital status, it is very important that you contact your HR partner as soon as possible so they can report the change to the fund prior to your separation from service. Because we in the fund, we do not accept any updates to personal information after you separate from service. Also, if you are eligible to validate, to validation or restoration or transfer in, as a participant of the fund, you can submit this request via your member self-service portal. Under e-form tabs, you may access various forms. For example, if you haven't yet done so, you can download the official A2 form on designating a recipient for residual settlement. These forms are completed with your name and your pension fund 9-digit unique ID number and with a barcode, which will, when we receive this form, will prevent an error in indexing these forms. And the member self-service document upload functionality is where you can then upload this A2 form, which is duly completed, dated, and hand-signed in PDF or JPEG format. Even though we do accept documents submitted electronically via MSS document upload, please know that you still have to hand sign them. And finally, you can run estimates of future pension benefits and options in MSS. So as you can see, the portal offers a lot of functionalities that are useful if you haven't registered in MSS yet, I would encourage you to do so as soon as possible. So how would you run an estimate in MSS? So under the Estimate tab, enter your future separation date and then click Submit Request. We recommend that you leave the fixed lump sum amount box blank to see the maximum lump sum amount you're entitled to, if any. And once you have the maximum lump sum amount, you can then go back to the estimate tool and run estimates with smaller amounts to see how your monthly benefit changes. And after you click Submit your request, please don't leave the page until the wheel, basically this wheel, has stopped turning and you're advised that your estimate can be viewed under the Documents tab. Oh, and then you can access your documents via the Document tab. How would you read your pension estimate? Okay. So in this example in front of us, the estimate is run by someone whose separation date is earlier than their early retirement age. Therefore, they are entitled either to a full deferred retirement benefits payable at their normal age of 62, and the value of that benefit is 35,000. Or the second option that they have is taking everything they've contributed to the fund and then the interest that they've earned in the form of a withdrawal settlement, meaning a one-time payment of 259,000 that would essentially end the relationship with the fund. So again, this participant has two options. Either they can elect a retirement benefit, but this benefit will only become payable at their normal retirement age of 62, or they can claim a withdrawal settlement payable right away, but it is a one-time payment that ends the relationship with the fund. And this is an example run by a participant who reached their early retirement age at the time of separation, but they're still younger than their normal retirement age. So this participant now has three options. they either early retirement benefit, full deferred retirement benefit, or withdrawal settlement. So with the early retirement benefit, which is around 39,000 in this case, this amount is payable right away because they have reached their early retirement age. They can elect the early retirement if they want to be paid right away. Or they say, well, I see that my full deferred retirement benefit is bigger. In this case, it's 65,000. So I would like to receive a larger annual amount. But with this benefits option, they will have to wait until their normal retirement age, in this case is 62, to claim this higher amount. And as you see in this example, the early retirement benefit offers a lump sum amount, whereas full deferred does not offer a lump sum amount. If the person elects the early retirement, the maximum lump sum they can take in this example is 339,000, but they don't have to take the maximum. They can always go back to the estimate tool, run it with a lower amount, for example, 200,000, and see how this change in lump sum will impact their annual amount. And with an early retirement, as mentioned before, there is a prospective survivor's benefit attached to this benefit. And whether the person elects to take a lump sum or not, it will always remain half of their full pension, which in this case is 38,000, around 40,000. So the prospective survivor's benefit is always half, regardless of whether the person elects to take lump sum or not, and it will be around 20,000 in this example. And this is just another example. This person have reached their normal retirement age, and therefore at the time of their separation, they will only be entitled to one benefit, which is the normal retirement benefit, with or without a lump sum. So if there is a need for you to contact the fund, how can you do that? Please be advised that active participants of UN agencies must contact their SPCs for all pension matters. So if you are an active participant of, let's say, WHO, WIPO, FAO, then if you have any questions on your pension matters, you must contact your SPC secretary. And active participants of other UNJSPF member organizations, such as UN Secretariat, for example, should contact the fund directly with your queries. You can reach us at any of the official contact details that is advertised on our website under Contact Us page. If you contact us in writing, please use the online contact form. Don't send emails to us directly, to our work emails, because the online contact form allows for tracking of all queries and of routing to the correct team and the tracking time that it takes to handle them. Also, when you submit a written query, you will get an automated response with the tracking number. and some specific topic-specific information based on what you contact us for. Alternatively, you can call us. Our contact center currently works 24 hours, 5 days a week, and it offers toll-free numbers. These toll-free numbers are also listed on our website. The contact center is a team of pension experts that will be able to help you and address your questions. If, in case they cannot resolve it on the call, they will escalate then this query to the next level of more senior experts, like the ones that are answering your questions today. So you can, if you ever need to contact us by phone, please call us during the official open hours, which are 24 hours again and 5 days a week. You can also visit us in our locations in New York and Geneva in person. The walk-in hours are advertised on our website. Please be advised that our walk-in services in the New York office will be temporarily suspended next week due to the high-level GA meetings, but we will resume them on Tuesday, October 1st. However, during this suspension time, you can still use other methods of contact and request a virtual consultation if needed. So this concludes today's presentation. I know we still have half an hour left. I don't know if any of my colleagues would like to address any questions or frequently asked questions during this presentation while we have time. Otherwise, we will conclude it.
Silva?
Yes.
First of all, big thanks to you and Denise for this very detailed and excellent presentation. I also want to say that over 450 questions were answered already in the chat. There are still over 130 outstanding. So the team of the fund is typing away with burning fingers to answer question after question, and we will definitely continue to answer them until the end of the session so that all questions that have reached us are answered. With that, I would say we are going to post one more time the survey so that our audience can let us know whether they found the session useful, and please provide us with your feedback because it will help us adjust future sessions. And I would say at this stage, we will close the chat, or it was just closed, so that we can then move to answering the remaining questions in the remaining half hour and make sure that we have answered as much as possible. We have received a lot of questions whether we can post the Q&A as part of the recording and the PowerPoint on our website on the Pension Town Hall page, and the answer is we will try. We had some problems in the past doing that, but we see, of course, the benefit of all your great questions and of having this overview, hopefully in a searchable document, so that you could benefit from the Q&A at a later stage. So I can't promise it right now, but we will do our very best to also make the Q&A available. So with this, I hand back over to you and Denise if you want to close the session for today. Thank you.
Denise, go ahead.
Yes, I think we have had a lot of questions, and I hope that you have found the session interesting and informative. And please do see the link to the survey and give us some feedback. believe it is there, posted just recently again. So thank you all for your attendance. And yes, check our website for the next town halls that are coming up in French, or the next session on pre-separation, pre-retirement and separation. And yes, thank you. Also, Dilbar has advised you how you can contact us. And again, if you haven't registered with Member Self-Service, please do so and access the information in your own pension account. So I'll hand over to you, Dilbar, if you'd like to say goodbye, but thank you from my side.
Thank you, Denise. So again, we hope you found the session informative. The recording and PowerPoint slides will be available on our website shortly. I also want to extend my gratitude to all my colleagues for addressing hundreds of questions submitted online, and for our ICT colleagues for providing the support. We appreciate your engagement and look forward to seeing you at our next town hall. Goodbye for now.